How's everybody today? We are going to be making a tutorial today about how you can do a make.com automation. And this automation is going to be able to check your available times and your Google Calendar. So if you got like an AI agent and you want the AI agent, voice agent in Vapi or any other platform to check your available times in your Google Calendar, this is how you would do it. So if we hop here on the scenarios tab, if you make a new automation in make.com, it will be blank, but I imported this template. So we're gonna be going over this template. If we go back down here, I wanna go over the basics on how you start in make.com. And if you run once, I explained this in my last tutorial and Vapi, um, how you can just test your assistant and you can just click this once and you're gonna see this module is gonna start running. Once it's running, let's just, if you see it's running, so you can see that is listening to this listening to data to arrive. When it's listening to the data to arrive, it will just basically run through these steps. So that's for building purposes. Once you're building and you're done, you want to turn this on, which is immediately as data arrives. So what that means is once data arrives, it will automatically run through this. So every time there's data made for this webhook to listen to, it will just run automatically. So you don't have to be here clicking this button and just guess when the data is going to arrive. Save, really important to just save all your work when you're building. And inputs is just, I don't really use the inputs. You can make inputs and use them in the scenario and the automation. Don't really need those, but you can look into them. Scenario settings, I recommend to leave the scenarios as they are. Notes is where you can do notes. If you have a big team, you can add notes and then you can let people know what's there to do, or if there's like a big project, you can just communicate with your team. If we go in here, auto align, it just basically would align it and it will make it look better. In here, there's multiple different software or applications that you can use. You got Airtable, you got Gmail, you got Notion, you got a bunch of applications you can use, software, CRMs. There's tools also that you're gonna be using, like the JSON parser, the router, the iterator. So you can just look into here. There's Soho, CRM. I know some lawyers use Soho. I know some lawyers use Clio. So there's the Clio module. So there's different softwares that you can use. But let's say you cannot find your application anywhere, you can make a HTTP request, which you can communicate with any software or application that you want to communicate to. It will basically make a request, like a GET request or a POST request. So you can send information in a POST request and you can receive whatever that information you send in is going to give you. So if you know how to read documentation, you can basically go to your platforms that you want to communicate with and you can make a bunch of HTTP request and communicate with your software or application that you're using. It's a really helpful tool, but you can also just first look into here, see what they offer. There is Google Sheets too. There is a bunch of applications you can use, and the majority of applications might be here. But if not, just make a HTTP request. Postgres, really helpful. You can communicate to any database that you built and VS Code. So if you integrate to your application, Postgres is integrated into it, you're using Postgres in your application, you can communicate with it with this module. Now I wanted to mention this more button. If you click the more button, I will be leaving this template uh, down, or blueprint as they call it, down in the description. So the way you import that blueprint, you just click this and then you choose your file, and now you will be able to use this blueprint, and that's how you will import a blueprint. Export it if you make a really big automation or you like automation and want to keep it in a JSON format so you can import it later. You can save it and then later you can import it. But first you will need to export it to keep it safe in your files. So if we hop in here, we can see that the first step or module is the webhook. So how will you create a module is you double click on the scenario, and you will click any of these modules that you see here. So you can start with pretty much anything. You can start with Google Sheets, you can start with Excel, MetaLite, anything you can think of, you can start on your first module. In this case, it will be a webhook. So we will do a custom webhook, and we just add a new webhook, and then you say new webhook, and then you save it. And now you got your new webhook here that you can use. You can use the URL like we did on our last video. So that's how you create a module in Make.com. If you want to create a step, you click here, and then you will be able to click to create the next step that you want that data to go through. So if we hop into the next step and you want to choose OpenAI, let's say, and you want to create a completion, you will have to connect your OpenAI to this Make.com scenario. So you have to put your API key here so you can have access to your OpenAI data. If we go here, you can see that we select the chat completion. And if we go down here, we can choose probably O1 mini. You're going to have two messages here, which is going to be the role. The message number one is the role, which is going to be the system or developer. This role is the system, so kind of like the assistant. This is the action of the assistant is going to do. So the system. The second message is going to be the user. So right here is what the user is going to say. So if we go in here, I can show you a little bit better. So I did all the steps that I did on the module. I just deleted. And if we see here the system, so we got the context here. We have just asked the user when they would like to book a meeting, and then we also give instructions, which is going to be to output the time and the end in this format, a JSON format. This is the rules. The start time will be 9 a.m. So the business is gonna open at 9 a.m. and it's gonna close at 5 p.m. Uh, the start and the end time will be the same date. The output should not include my explanations. So any explanations. So the output should always start with a curly bracket. So it's gonna output it nice and neat for us so we can use it on the next module. And then the role of the user is this is the current date and time. So you're gonna put the current date and time in here by using make.com. So how you would do that is you go here and then you click now. So now is now. Today's day and time is now. So in here, this is the message that we got from here, from this webhook. How do we know it goes from here? You see how it's like moving when I hover over that module is moving. If we click on this, we're gonna see if we find that message. There's a message. This message is in tool with two call lists. So we can expand this and we can see, and if we go further to tool calls and functions, you're gonna see the arguments and time. So Friday. So that's what that means. This is Friday right here. That is coming from the information, from the data from this module that we put in here. We just close this. Let me delete this, and we kind of gonna go in sequence now, and I'm gonna explain what happened next. On the next step, we can see that we created a parse JSON module. So you can add it, right? We want that information that this module is given outputting. So if we see, you can add it and you can create data structure. So you can add items, right? What do you want from this module? So if we go in here and we edit it, you can add. So what do you want from this module? You want the start time and you want the end time that was outputted from this module. If we close this, I want to show you this is in choices that is coming from this module. You see it's like moving or pulsing. If we hover over it, it's coming from the module. So if we go to choices, we expand this, and all this information is coming from the last module, from this OpenAI module. So we taking that information, message and content. So we go to choices and we go to messages and we go to content. You see that's the output that we need, right? So we get the start time and the end time from the module, and we have a nice and neat because we extracting it from the module. We only extracting that information, which we're gonna put it through this variable. Every variable has a name, which is gonna be this, and you see it's pulsing again, which is the start time, and we want to format that start time, format that date to a 2-letter date because we want to see if it's a Saturday or a Sunday. If it's a Saturday or a Sunday, it's gonna output SU for Sunday and SA for Saturday. So we're gonna just format it as 2 letter days, so we know if they're asking for a date, let's say on Saturday or Sunday, they're gonna be closed. So since we formatted this variable, now we know if we have to route this router. So if we see a router which you can make a flow control, and you can make a router, that's how you make a router. You can see that there's 2 paths that the data can go through. So you can filter or make conditions for those paths. So remember that we formatted that date, which we're using here, to be 2 letters in the day. So for example, if SA is for Saturday, SU is for Sunday. So if that date that we that the client used is a Saturday, which we formatted as 2 letters, is equal to that day, is gonna go through this path. So if it's a Saturday and a Sunday, it's gonna go through this path, which is gonna be a webhook response back to VAPI. So we get the ID, the tool call ID, which you get it from here, from this path. It's gonna go back to that ID, and it's gonna go back to the assistant, and it's gonna say we are not available on the weekends. That's the message. That's the result that webhook response is gonna give to the assistant in VAPI. Now, if we go to this filter and it says not equal to Saturday and it's not equal to a Sunday, it's gonna go through here. This API call or post call to Google Calendar, you're gonna use this URL, which is gonna be your endpoint that you're gonna grab from the Google Calendar documentation. You can read all the documentation. You can just look up Google Calendar documentation, and then you are gonna have a whole bunch of documentation you can go through. You're gonna make a post request to Google Calendars. The keys or the headers that you're gonna send to that endpoint is gonna be content type and application JSON. Now the body that you're gonna send over there is gonna be the start time that you got from the JSON parse over there, and then the end time. So you send in those times in that body to the free busy URL, so it can check your times. It's gonna check if you're busy or if you're free, basically. So that's how you do an API call to the Google Calendar to check your available times. Now here we got another router. You get that information from here. And here we this basically is gonna be a fallback. So if there's an error, it's just gonna go through here, and all time slots are booked. So please check for another date. So if there is no times available, it's gonna be a fallback, and it's gonna go through the webhook, which is a webhook response, just like this one up here, and it's just gonna give out that result that all the slots are booked. Now, if we got available times, it's gonna go through the iterator, which so what the iterator is gonna process. This is a tool from Make.com. It's gonna process an array. It's gonna process an array from this API call. Once you call it, an array is gonna come back and it's gonna go through here and we're gonna process it in this module, the iterator. It's gonna go through each item in that list because an array is a list of items. Once we process that and we separate each item of that list, we want to extract the stuff that we want. That's why we JSON parse or we create a JSON. So if we want to create a JSON, we take the value from this module right here. You can add it, but if we go to edit, we need the value, which is going to be the name. Type is going to be an array, and the type is going to be a collection. And the start time, this is what we want from each of these items. We want to extract the start time, which is going to be a date, and the end time, which is also going to be a date. Once we extract those items from that array or each of those items in that list, we can process it and make a message here in OpenAI. We basically follow the same steps as this OpenAI back here, but this time it's gonna be a different message. We're gonna be providing the busy slots, and we want the OpenAI basically to just output the available times. So this is the instructions for the system, but if we go to the user, we can see that these are the busy slots from the calendar. So as you can see, we're getting that information. If you see a pulsing over there in the JSON that we created, we can see a pulsing. So each start and end pair presents one busy slot. So we basically processing the busy slots and outputting the available times. Once we do that, we can basically come here and we put the tool ID for BAPI that you already know how to get through this path, and we just basically put the output that the OpenAI is giving us, the message content. These are the available slots on that date. So that's how you get those available times. There's multiple different ways you can get really creative with Make.com. You can also integrate the availability, and you can also create a new event in Make.com or a new appointment. So you can create different paths and be really creative. So it's really up to you. There's no right or wrong way as long as it works. So I would recommend you to play around, and I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial. Three. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. It means a lot to me, and I will be leaving this blueprint down in the description below so you can use it. You can add book an appointment automation to it, and you can add different multiple paths that will be beneficial for you. If you have any questions or want to book a call with me to see how we can help your business with automatizations or voice agents, you can book me in the description. And the description is going to be my website.